Shalom, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After Hours. Much appreciate your time once again. Thank you for joining me as we go into another weird and wonderful ramble into the realms of current affairs, modern living, and trying to shine some light in some dark places. So again, much appreciate the time that you've taken to be with me today. Without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now, this week in the news, we've had our Prime Minister, so-called Rishi Sunak, political evaluations to the side for one moment. This made for a very compelling meeting. He hosted and held the inaugural Artificial Intelligence Safety Summit. For those of you that joined us on an earlier episode, we went into the history and the foundations of AI, and which I think gives us a good foundation at which we can navigate more modern stories about it. And so this week we had Rishi is joined by Elon Musk, the culmination of the summit itself, which arguably could be described as a PR exercise of sorts from the Prime Minister. But essentially, Rishi and Elon Musk, the modern day Tony Starks himself, had this meeting. So we're just going to play some clips, and we'll get into it.
I do think there is a safety concern, especially with humanoid robots. If you have a humanoid robot, it can basically chase you anywhere. So I think we should have some kind of hardwired local cutoff that you can't update from the internet. So anything that can be software updated from the internet obviously can be overridden. But if you have a local sort of off switch where you perhaps say a keyword or something, and then that puts the robot into a safe state. Some kind of localized safe state ability, an off switch, where you don't have to get too close to the robot. I don't know. So if we've got millions of these things going all over the place.
You're not selling it, just, like that.
No, I know. I'm saying this is something we should be quite concerned about, because if the robot can follow you anywhere, then, what if they just one day get a software update and they're not so friendly anymore? Then we've got a James Cameron movie on our hands.
So I took a decision to invite China to Summit over the last couple of days. And it was not an easy decision. A lot of people criticized me for it. My view is if you're going to try and have serious conversation, you need to. But what would your thoughts? You do business all around the world. You just talked about it there.
Yeah.
Should we be engaging with them? Can we trust them? Is that the right thing to have done?
When I was in China earlier this year, my main subject of discussion with the leadership in China was AI safety, and saying that this is really something that they should care about, and they took it seriously, and you are too, which is great. And having them here, I think, was essential. Really, if they're not participants, it's pointless.
So, real strange. Just before we get into the content of what Musk is actually discussing there and highlighting, it's just the. I just want to have a look at the elements of almost the power at play within this interaction, and again, without going on some deep psychoanalytical behavioural tangent, it's just a very strange combination that we have between historically what a political leader. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at one point in history, for good or bad, would be, I guess, symbolically described as a powerful character, somebody who holds a lot of sway or has a lot of influence, and just is kind of almost a bastion of democracy on a world stage. And it's essentially denigrated to this default guy in office who just happened to be at the right place at the right time because no one else is competent enough to do this job. Now, with that being said, obviously the effectiveness and the actual power that a prime minister or any world leader actually holds is debatable. I mean, in terms of the decision making and the things they actually get to do, they're farts in the wind, essentially. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and they are the public faces. But with that being said, from a symbolic point of view, you have this guy here, this Rishi Sunak, and this, without even getting into the character of the individual and the personal elements of his personality and everything else, it's like he's interviewing Elon Musk. He's almost subjugating himself to this character in order to I guess, I mean, from a point of view, to get viewers to do the popular thing, to almost go viral. I mean, the guy's got his own YouTube channel, and we know about politics being an extended PR exercise, so they'll do anything to be relevant and all the rest of it. However, this element of the interviewee becoming the interviewer is a very strange premise, and we've got this this almost fanboy element. Now I know vaguely about Rishi's enthusiasm and history with technology and things of that nature, but the guy is literally just like gushing over the fact that he's got Elon Musk in his presence, and he's able to ask him these questions. Now, what's really strange is that in the shift of power, this unelected entrepreneurial business owner is essentially what he is fast becoming an authority on political legislation when it comes to technology and AI, but also a degree of a moral compass. We may get into that a bit more, but it's just a bit of a strange dynamic of this prominent world leader almost bowing down to this guy. I mean, it's just strange. And then obviously, Rishi's trying to ask the right questions. He's got his fingers on the pulse, and he's relevant to the topics of today. And I get all of that, but it's just strange. It's weird, and it's a sign of the melting down and denigration of the political realm, where from a local level, and when I say local, I mean like national. Politics itself is just melted into this nothingness where you have no characters, you have no strength, you have no moral backbone. It's just these sound bites and clips of people in suits just talking garbage, basically, for the sake of trying to get some collateral in the public domain. And it's just melted to it's in a terrible state, essentially. But it actually allows for this global narrative to take place, because if you melt everything away at a national level, a local level, is at that point it can become unified. So if you have all these world leaders who are lacking character, lacking moral compass, lacking values, and actually it then becomes easier to assimilate it to a particular narrative, which is essentially the singularity and the global agenda that's at play. So that's the strange power shift that you can see at play, and it's just very strange and very weird. And then if we get into the opening, I mean, this is an hour-long interview, so this is only a tiny little excerpt. But Elon there discussing this notion of software updates and having the power to turn these things off because of the the potential for them to cause harm. And again, this kind of doom-mongering, scaremongering element of artificial intelligence and how it's on the cusp of being released in a way that could be out of our control. Again, that's something that's been widely reported. But again, it's just strange how this guy is the advocate for these advances, but yet he's comes with these sobering warnings. And it's just that it's delivered in this laughy, jokey, like, and these robots chasing you up trees and killing people, and wouldn't that be like a James Cameron movie? It's like, that sounds like hell on earth. That's horrendous. It's not really. I don't think it's like particularly funny. Like, but here we are. This is the weird amalgamation of technology and politics. Another clip. We'll get into that.
What's your view on what we should be doing?
Talking about digital superintelligence, I think, which does pose a risk to the public, then there is a role for government to play to safeguard the interests of the public.
What would your kind of observation be on AI and the impact on labor markets and people's...
Again, it's just like, what would your opinion be? What should we do, Mr. Musk? What's the best thing? You know, like, it's feckless and weak from a so-called leader who's just like at the mercies of this guy. Very weird dynamic.
Jobs and how they should feel about that as they think about this.
Well, I think we are seeing the most disruptive force in history here. Where we have for the first time, we will have for the first time something that is smarter than the smartest human. We've learned over the years that having a referee is a good thing. And if you look at any sports game, there's always a referee. And nobody's suggesting, I think, to have a sports game without one. And I think that's the right way to think about this.
When you look at the landscape of things that you see as possible, what is it that you are particularly excited about?
I think
it's just weird. Like, you got Will.i.am of the seminal pop group Black Eyed Peas, just like the authority. Like, he actually has some interesting things to say, but it's just a weird. I can't get over how like the weird these authority figures are. It's just really strange. But again, he describes it here as the most disruptive force in history. He describes the element of how we won't need anybody working in the future, and working will almost be a place of leisure and choice as opposed to a necessity, which is just bizarre. That it's just it's done in such a flippant way. It's just very strange.
I think certainly AI tutors are going to be amazing. Perhaps already are. I think there's also perhaps companionship, which may seem odd because how can the computer really be your friend? But if you have an AI that has memory, and remembers all of your interactions and has read you can say, like, give it permission to read everything you've ever done. So it really will know you better than anyone, perhaps even yourself. And where you can talk to it every day, and those conversations build upon each other, you will actually have a great friend. As long as that friend can stay your friend and not get turned off or something. Don't turn off my friend.
Just real strange, talking about this companionship element to the machine. It's odd. I mean, we spoke before about this Frankenstein element of life and companionship, and essentially playing God in our relationships, and such a jovial, flippant addressing of what is just an absolutely bonkers premise. Something knowing all of your intimate history and then becoming aware and almost sentient to that, so that you can develop a relationship. We've experienced like a soft dilution of that, and that having evolved in terms of my having friends online, cultivating relationships online, but having never really met those individuals, but yet they're considered your friends and your your peers. It's a very alien concept. If you go back maybe 1 or 2 generations of like, you know, a step removed from real life relationships, real life scenarios and situations, and it's transferred to this digital realm where they've legitimized this duplicate version of what a relationship actually constitutes. And here we are where, you know, I remember in recent memory, there was I think it was the Labour MP, David Blunkett. I think he was head of the Home Office for the Labour government in the 90s. And there was a big hoo-ha around the introduction of ID cards, that people would have to carry a card with their details on it. And people kicked up a stink because it was like, nah, that's my privacy. I'm not walking around with some identification card. And it kicked off hard. And now here we are, 15, 20 years later, where it's like privacy has been relinquished for convenience and companionship by the looks of it. You know, it's here's my details, here's my home, you know, social media where you can lay everything bare. Again, that's without going into the biometrics element of data mining and why big tech companies want to know what the inside of your house looks like, or recording your voice for advertising. Like, this isn't conspiracy. This is a genuine construct that's evolved. And here we are to the point where people are ready to relinquish their details, ready to relinquish their privacy in order to have not only convenience, but as Musk puts here, companionship and friendship, because they know you better than anyone else. That's demonic. Like that's horrible. That's literally horrible. But again, it's just where we're at, and this is the direction that we're heading into. Now again, we could easily do like a whole segment on Musk and who he is, but it's a strange one where we've got this guy who he seems to have courted the company and attention, at least publicly, with world leaders over the last decade. You know, he's Emmanuel Macron, Donald Trump, Prime Minister of India, Netanyahu. There he's hanging out with old Popey. It's like, who are you? Where have you come from? And how is this entrepreneur who has no electoral foundation, he seems to have come out of nowhere. How is he holding sway in conversations with the world leaders and having these world leaders at least publicly fawning over him and being seen to be lending an ear to this guy? It's a really strange situation. He's also developed into some form of, as I said before, like a moral. He's holding a moral standard. He took over Twitter last year, acrimoniously and very publicly. I personally have never used Twitter in my life, but obviously I'm aware of, you know, the stories and things that emanate from it and the power that it holds. But here we are where he's taken a platform and he's establishing elements of freedom of speech. You know, he's standing for maybe more of a right-wing leaning perspective on what can and can't be said. He's obviously affiliated to certain people and has an agenda himself. It's a really, really odd situation. You've got the SpaceX element as well, where he's sending rockets into space, so-called, and depending on your understanding or perspective on what that actually is in reality. You know, very odd individual. Here we have famously last year in his nice little Baphomet get up. I mean, you can look at that and go, well, it's coincidence. He's just role playing, and he's just having a laugh. I'm not so sure. I've seen elements of the suggestion that his bloodline for his mother may be towards a Rosicrucian Swiss line. I've never found anything concrete on that, so I'm not going to say that definitively, but there are questionable links historically for his family in terms of where his lineage and where he comes from. So I'm not definitively saying anything on that, but it's a very strange, like, this guy, he's on the most popular podcast, he's chummy with Joe Rogan, he's getting millions of viewers on there, he's floating around with these world leaders, and he's dictating, not dictating, but he's influencing policy and current opinion, but he's just this very strange individual having an effect on our modern day. So again, no definitive conclusion on this. He's still an individual that I think it's worth keeping an eye on. He's obviously in the news a lot, but it's just strange to see this interaction with our Prime Minister, essentially. So yeah, there you go. That's Rishi Sunak, Elon Musk coming together to make you feel even weirder about the future. So yeah, there's that. Right, next up, maybe not the freshest story, but it's possibly something you may not have seen as yet, but it's something that's been in the pipeline for about a year now. And I first came across this a few months ago and just thought it was very, just an amazing thing, really. But we'll take a look. Before we do, just getting into the definition of utopia, an imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect. It's often cited in literature and in just in the public consciousness of heading for a utopia, a place that almost doesn't exist. So with that being said, let me introduce you to Saudi Arabia's The Line. Really strange, but yeah, quite amazing, and at the same time.
A year and a half after Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman first announced his ambitious plans to build a linear city, he has now revealed the first glimpses of what the city will look like. In his bid to steer his country away from the dependence on revenue from crude oil reserves, the Crown Prince has set himself on a path that requires him to do something so outlandish that the world would want to come and see it. He probably recognizes that building the tallest structure in the world does not cut ice with many people. Instead, he is making a city with skyscrapers taller than the Empire State Building and extends linearly for 105 miles, connecting the country's west coast with the east. The line is being designed to put humans first in the pecking order of urban planning and strip off the need for roads to move cars and buses around. Transit within the city is through a high-speed underground rail line that can take you from one end of the city to the other in 20 minutes, while everything else you may need is expected to be a few minutes walk away from you. The city can accommodate 9 million people but only uses an area of 13 square miles, which has not been seen in a conventional city. The power demand of the town will be 100% met by renewable sources, while 95% of the project land will be preserved. Calling it urban gravity urbanism, the project design vertically layers the city's buildings so that people can move up, down, or across instead of traveling for miles. Therefore, everything is just a 5-minute walk away, whether it is a public park, office workspace, or school. The construction of the project will use digital designs and industrial-scale construction to pace up the building of the city, while an outer mirror facade is meant for the construction to blend into its environment. The use of vertical farming and autonomous bots to harvest and transport the food to community kitchens, as well as a subscription fee from residents to use them. There was also a mention of a sports stadium built 1,000 feet above the ground and the issue of how the project could disrupt the migration of birds as well as snatch lands away from the tribes of the region. The line is also one of the many other ambitious designs to be undertaken in the NEOM project, such as a manufacturing and innovation city called Oxagon and the first outdoor skiing destination in the Arabian Gulf that will be housed at Trojena, a tourist destination.
Yeah, impressive in its design and potential execution. But this is symbolic of what we've seen in I guess, the culmination in recent years of, again, another power shift towards the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, these areas, which have generally been increasing, particularly over the last couple of years, which is probably indicative of a lot of events, particularly sporting events, being moved in this area. We had the World Cup, the Football World Cup in Qatar recently. We've had the recent awarding of a future World Cup in Saudi Arabia as well. We have seen a lot of property and real estate held in prominent parts of Europe and the UK that is under Saudi ownership. And it's very strange because growing up, we certainly had an impression of, the West, the UK and America being, very powerful, very strong leaders of the modern world, etc. And here we have this this shift to the Middle East, where there's so much money. You're talking literally trillions. Through the you have the investment fund, the Saudi Arabia investment fund, which is almost a bottomless pit of resource, and we're seeing there's this power shift to that area and that realm, and the line just looks incredible in its concept. And I say incredible and awesome and use these superlatives, but I don't think it's necessarily like a place I would want to live or exist. I mean, you're stuck in the middle of the desert, in a luxurious prison of sorts. But work has actually started on it. They've been digging out the foundations. There are several other projects in and around that area which are in fast development. There is a lot of controversy in terms of the plans and the movement of certain indigenous people to those areas. So it is facing its own struggles in that. But it's interesting because in the context of what's been discussed of late, particularly over here with regards to, is it the 15-minute cities of everything being localized to the point where you don't have to travel anywhere, you don't have to go anywhere, minimal carbon footprint, saving the world through this woke climate change agenda, etc. But if it's all under one roof, you've got all of your needs met, it's all localized, and it's just, again, probably sounds really good on paper from a progressive point of view, but from a realistic and historical perspective, that looks absolutely it looks horrendous. Not for me. But again, something else to keep your eye on, the development of that. And again, let me know in the comments section if you've seen anything in the news, any reports. Let me know what you think. Is it somewhere that you would fancy living? Let us know. Right. My final story. I am challenging you to not get the feels over this one. It's an old clip, but it's classic. And again, it would just be nice to leave this on a high note. No pun intended. But yeah, I'm just going to get into it. And let it play out. love it. Absolute classic. Like I say, if you didn't get the feels for that one, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I hope that this reaches you well. Hope that puts a spring in your step. Yeah, I pray you have a good week. Yeah, keep walking the walk, keep fighting the good fight. And from our house to yours, it's been a pleasure. Shalom. Love you lots. God bless.